Alright, I guess everybody really liked the lazy history bounding video, so I guess that's going to be a thing. I'll work on some more ideas and we'll do some more videos in the new year with that theme. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to research costume and dress history. But here's a fun fact. There is no such thing as historical accuracy. As Dickens once said of the death of Jacob Marley, this must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the story I'm going to relate. So if there's no such thing as historically accurate, why bother doing research? The answer is so that you know what you do not know. There's a common adage that people have attributed to everyone from Aristotle to Einstein, and it's, the more I learn, the less I know. I swear, the title of my autobiography will be Attributed, No Source. The point of the expression is that when we learn things, we also learn that there are more things to know. If you ever end up down a Wikipedia hyperlink wormhole, then you know what I'm talking about. Knowledge is turtles all the way down. So when you're making historical dress, having the knowledge isn't going to get you perfect accuracy. But what it does is help you make a decision about how and why you are inaccurate. And that is a magical formula. To help illustrate this, you're going to come with me on a multi-video journey of making a medieval gown. This is part 1. The literal and figurative foundations, research, and underwear. In this video, we will walk through how I do my research for big projects. How does my research shape those projects? How do I use that research to choose the kind of inaccuracy that I end up with? Research can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be, and it can be overwhelming if you don't know where to begin. I have made a playlist of historical costuming research videos by fellow costumers. I recommend using this playlist if you're having trouble deciding where to begin. The best policy with research is to start broad and narrow down as you go. It's no good researching something specific if you don't know what it is you're looking for. Get the big picture, and then the little things will start to fill themselves in. For some structure, I'm going to use the questions children learn about to write news articles. Who, what, where, why, and how. And incidentally, I'm recounting this research in a linear fashion, but this is a project that I've picked up and put down for the past 9 months. My research rabbit holes have run hither and yon in the meantime. It looks a lot more organized now than it was at the time. So starting out, I wanted a medieval gown. Well, that's about as general as you can get. There is a very general when, and there is a very general what. My knowledge of the medieval period is mostly limited to literature. All other facts and dates are spotty and mashed up together. In my mind, Jeanne d'Arc and Eleanor of Aquitaine occupy the same rough space, and they lived about 300 years apart. And yes, I did have to double check the dates of those two women to confirm that that joke would work. I need to get a little bit more specific. So how do you go about that when you don't know anything about the time period? The answer is going to differ depending on what you have in mind already. I have a very specific look in my head that I know that I've seen depicted in medieval paintings. So I started my research looking for accurately dated and sourced images that were similar to what I had in my head. I recommend sifting the Google image results for museums, universities, and Wikimedia Commons. If you happen to own any books that are overviews of history, this would be the time to use them. I literally just started by searching medieval gown and looked through the results. I found that the image that I had in mind was a style that spanned the 14th and very early 15th century in Western Europe. That narrows it down enough that there's a specific Wikipedia article devoted to it. So, hurrah! Wikipedia is an excellent starting point for 2 reasons. The first is that it has a standard of readability, which makes it much more accessible than a lot of other sources. And the second is that the moderation standard requires sources and citations. So along with helpful information, you now have a further list of sources. So once I decided on this era, I collected resources that were available through the Wikipedia articles and compiled them in case I needed more info later on. From this article, I was able to acquire some keywords that would help me narrow down my search even more. The gown that I had in mind, for example, is called a kirtle. The most common textile at the time for this kind of garment was wool. And as usual, a linen shift would be the base layer. If I wanted to go all in, the full outfit would also likely include a veil or wimple, hose, and maybe some other fun bits like a belt and shoes. Maybe. There would also probably be another layer atop the kirtle, maybe a cyclas for instance. Outerwear like a cloak or mantle might also be an option, especially because it's winter here right now. I knew of some of these words and facts beforehand, but I didn't have any context or definitions or specificity, so now I've got a much better idea of how these words apply to my project in particular. At this point, I ask myself the question, Do I want to stop researching here, or do I want to learn more? And lather, rinse, repeat. This is the basic model. When you find more keywords, decide if you want to find out more using those keywords, and when you do find out more, decide if you care. So where are we in terms of our list of questions? Who? Still unanswered. What? Instead of gown, we now have wool kirtle. Where is now specified to Western Europe, and why has always been because I want to. We'll talk about how in a second. Okay, so there's not much more, but our answers can actually help us with the other questions that we haven't filled in yet. For example, when considering who, where, and when help us out a great deal. Who was hanging around 14th century Western Europe? Who do I want to dress as? Who would be wearing the dress that I have in my head? Every time you want to get more specific, follow that same pattern of broader to narrower. I'm not going to walk you through every single step of this process for this particular project. I will, however, post my sources and notes in a public post on my Patreon page. While you're there, why not become a patron? You could get access to bonus videos, polls about future videos, live streams, and more. But back to the research. Here are the results of a few repetitions of having general questions that I researched into more specific answers. Who? A married middle-class woman, aka me. What? A green wool kirtle with narrow button sleeves and a wide neckline, fastened with cord, plus a linen smock to wear underneath, and headwear and accessories. When? Approximately 1380 to 1420 CE. Where? Paris, France. Why? Still because I want to. The last thing we'll talk about is the how, because that is where the majority of decisions about inaccuracy will take place. Many things can affect your costuming choices. I've spoken previously about money, health, and time, and after you examine those factors, you can also assess what you prefer and how much you care. If you don't care about accessories, don't make them. If you prefer cotton to wool, or if you're allergic or are vegan, then you can make that choice for yourself. Here are some of the choices that I have made for this project which answer the question how. For the underthings, I've made the smock out of white linen by hand. I'm making it by hand because I've kind of gotten into the habit of making shifts and smocks by hand. The seams, shapes, and process are similar and simple across most of history, and I found it to be a kind of meditative practice for me. I used a basic pattern that I had drafted before for other shifts, and then changed the dimensions of the sleeves and the neckline to better match this style and period. For the kirtle pattern, I'm going to be drafting it by draping it on myself. I made this decision after a lot of looking at blogs, videos, historical sources, as well as the recommendations of costuming friends. The consensus seemed to be that whatever pattern you use will likely need the same amount of alteration as if you just draped the thing yourself. So my mother helped me with this. More on that process in the next video. I've decided to make the kirtle by machine. As much as I would love to sew it by hand, and I will probably do a lot of the finishing and lacing holes by hand, I'm trying to be kinder to myself, and sewing this by machine will be much faster and easier. If I get way ahead of schedule, or if I get frustrated with my machine, which happens, I can always change my mind. Other inaccuracies of note. The wool is woven, but it's not fulled or spun in the style of the time. It's the best facsimile of the weight and feel that I wanted. If I make my own cord for the lacing, it will not be using historical methods, but I will probably not be making my own cording. My hose will probably be cotton knit or bias cut flannel rather than wool, maybe if I have a lot of wool scraps from the gown. My draping and assembly methods will follow the, I don't know, this seems right model. I might learn some historical methods out of curiosity, but I'm not going to be learning them out of a desire to emulate. And while there are many, many more inaccuracies that I could name, I will leave you on this final inaccuracy. I know that this is something that we talk about in a sort of facetious way in costuming a lot, but for real, I think sometimes the facts of history often get in the way of the spirit of history. Wool was the fabric of choice in medieval Europe because it was abundant, accessible, and cost-efficient. It worked to make the clothes that people needed to live their lives. The same is true today for polyester, cotton, rayon, nylon. I'm making this gown in a way that is doable for me, based on what I can afford and what I have access to. I plan to use the knowledge that I have and gain knowledge from others in my community. I will then pass along that knowledge. If that doesn't embody the essence of historical craft, I don't know what does. We all make personal choices based on values and tastes in our costuming, but don't let those tastes and values lull you into a superiority complex. None of us are historically accurate. The choices we have made direct the different ways that we are inaccurate. I reject absolutely the need to add a value judgment to these choices for myself or anyone else. So with that in mind, I hope you tune in for the continuation of this project. Next time we'll draft a curdle pattern and find out how long I had to hold up my arms like this. Also, thank you to Sarah for this postcard. It's a beautiful sculpture that will make its home next to the cranes on my wall. If you'd like to contribute to this wall of decor, my P.O. box is in the description. If you like this video, please subscribe and click on the notification bell so that you never miss a video. I make videos about costumes, bookish things, and all things historical. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Do you like this? This is my little bookworm. He makes me very happy. He's got his book. He's doing good. Breathe, Liz, breathe, 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 breathe. So many in, out. Because they allow for, nope, that's not how that sentence was supposed to go. Ooh, that's a long sentence, Liz, breathe. Well, that's not where the emphasis goes. Nope, 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 drink. Ugh. Ack, ack, ack.